Welcome everyone to the first episode of the Seer, the Valhalla Esports podcast. This week we're going to be going over our Season 1 team rosters along with our thoughts on the upcoming week of games. First I'm going to go over how the season's going to work overall for how teams can get into playoffs. So for Valhalla we have 4 divisions: Vanaheim, Jotunheim, Midgard, and Helheim, each with 3 teams. All you have to do to make it into playoffs is be one of the top 2 teams out of those 3 teams to make it into playoffs and have your chance at the finals. With that, I'm going to be joined by insert name here, King Beardcles, Fluffy Death, and Boo I'm Satan, as we look at our team rosters for this season. Alright guys, welcome. There you go. Now people can hear you.
Hello.
Hello, hello.
Yo.
Alright, so our first team we're going over in the Vanaheim is 404 Error, captained by our own Fluffy Death here on the podcast.
Hello.
All right. So this team, they recently made a switch in the top lane. It was recently Mind's Desire in the top lane. He has left and Flame has replaced him. So it'll be very interesting to see what will happen with this team. They have a very strong shot caller top lane with Flame. Flame's also been very dominant in the in-houses, so we'll see if he can maintain that into the regular league. One of the bigger question marks that I have as far as what will happen during the league is going to be coming from Rogue Atlas. I know that Rogue Atlas tends to favor the assassins. The rest of his team likes to play a lot more control style of champions. So we'll have to see if he can make the assassins work in that kind of comp, or if he can change up his champion pool maybe in order to fit more of a control, more scaling style of team. Fluffy Death in mid lane is a terror on that Aurelia. He's in here as well. Beyond that, it's the different control mages in mid lane. You seem to be doing really well in those scaling matchups. And then the bot lane here is Tower Tactile and Doombird. Both are able to play incredibly safe. Doombird can play some of those more roaming champions, very versatile as a support. So in general, I think that they'll be a really strong team in the team fights later on in the game and be able to scale into the game, but we'll see how they can get through the early game.
Yeah, with my inside knowledge here, I can tell you Rogue Atlas might be switching some picks up, see if we can put some other champions, try, see what works, see what doesn't work. I think one of our big worries right now, if Tartactile can survive a little bit late game, and I think if he can just keep playing very safe with Doombird's help, I think we can definitely do some work.
Yeah. Perfect. Any other comments that you guys have on Era 404?
Any thoughts, Beard and Boo?
I mean, you just kind of nailed every one of them. So
Yeah, you guys
That comes.
took care of that one.
Cool.
I have no disagreements.
Sounds good. Moving on from 404, we will be looking at Play Gaming. Here we have top, they have Too Good for Lima, jungle we got Vixper, mid they've got Flimsy Fence, ADC Arma, and support Amandy Rose. So definitely a solid lineup here. Oh, why would that be?
either.
Yeah.
Oh, there you
No, they can hear you.
Yeah, I can hear now.
Alright.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Basically,
So did they
basically
miss
gotta
all
start
of
from
the
the
Era
top here.
404?
Sorry about
Yeah.
that, everyone had a slight hiccup.
At what point did you guys hear anything at all for all of that, or
It'd be everything for Plague.
everything for Plague? Okay, so so you guys heard Era 404?
Yeah, they could hear an error 404.
Okay, cool. All right, Plague Gaming. Let's just start this back over. All right, cool. So Plague Gaming, Too Good for Lima top lane. I haven't seen too much in the in-houses, but he, according to his match history, it's a lot of Darius, Pantheon set, a lot of those more lane dominant top laners, a lot of those juggernauts. So we'll see if he can get some kind of lead up there. I know that he's one of the lower salaries on the team, so we'll see if he can pull his weight in that top lane. Jungle, they have Vixper. So Vixper has been around in the scene for a long while. He's been in a series of different leagues. He likes to play a lot of those more like early game fighters, skirmishing junglers, things like Volibear, Viego, Graves, Udyr. He'll be great in those early 2v2s. So it'll be really cool to see if Vixper and Too Good for Lima can manage to get some good 2v2s top lane and get that duo going, since they're both playing those strong early game skirmish champions. Flimsy Fence is one of the stronger mid laners in the league. He's his main is definitely a Seer, but he's been filling in some other champions over time. We'll see what he'll pull out. I honestly could not say if he's going to be going for strictly scaling mid laners. That's what he's shown the most. But he could easily pull out some more early game picks to take over the early game. Armor Fidelium and Amandy Rose are going to be a duo bot lane here. So Armor Fidelium, he was previously known as Omavai, but a long while ago. He is a very aggressive ADC player in the bot lane. He'll fall back to Aphelios as his main, but he also plays things like Tristana, Ezreal, Jinx. He wants to find that lead early, and then he can snowball that lead. And then Amandy Rose is our resident streamer. She plays a lot of Nami, but she's also been branching out into other champions like Morgana, Lulu, Senna, trying to expand that champ pool, but it's mostly just those enchantresses. So this is a team that they're looking to win the game pretty early. They're wanting to get Armor Fidelium ahead. They're wanting to get Flimsy Fence on scaling up into his later game power. So they want to try to win early, snowball that. If they can't win early game, their entire game plan is going to be reliant upon either Arma out microing somebody or Flimsy Fence just scaling and being super dominant. So we'll see if they can ever hit to that point.
This is one of the teams I'm very excited to watch. I think the combination of Flimsy and Arma is like one of them's gonna pop off, right? And I think they're an interesting game to watch.
Exactly.
They do actually have a fair amount of flexibility here since Fence has played a lot of mid, jungle, and top. So as needed, as the season goes on, they could swap around if they wanted to use different roles.
Yep, I do know that Vixper has played top lane before, and I believe Too Good for Lima is pretty flexible on where they can go. So we'll see if they even stick with those with that lineup here.
Yeah, I'm just excited to see that bot lane. That looks like it'll be a fun lane to play against.
Yeah, it should be definitely interesting. Should be nice and aggressive as well. So
yeah,
it's one of the few aggressive lanes that we have in the league. We'll see if that continues there.
All right. Well,
All
with
right.
that, we'll move on to our third team in Vanaheim, which is the Bear Squad. And I'll copy that over so people can hear you.
Make sure we can actually be heard this time.
Right.
You're good.
Megan?
Yeah,
Okay, cool.
I just turned it up to make sure.
Perfect. Okay, cool. So, Bear Squad. This is with Fayman top, Cookie Meth jungle, Brewbender mid, Boosted Sandwich ADC, and Jerbear 1912 support. So we'll just start with the top lane again, I guess, with Fayman. Fayman has been dominant in the in-houses. She has very strong micro abilities and can outplay people who are high platinum, low diamond. Fayman's been destroying them in the in-houses. We'll see what will happen from Fayman with macro, because I know that's where Fayman has vocally said is a bit lacking. So we'll see if somebody on the team can step up as that shot caller and control that macro of the game. If that happens, I think Fayman will be an absolute monster. Fayman especially is known for the Aurelia. We'll play things like Gwen, Kale, so those scaling picks in top lane that are incredibly dominant in the side lane, while they can still join some fights and take over those fights. In jungle, we have Cookie Meth. So Cookie Meth is more of an aggressive jungler, playing things like Shaco, Kha'Zix, Viego. It's one of the other assassin players that we have. We actually have a surprising number of assassin-style junglers in the league, which is a nice change. Cookie Meth will be looking to find a lead and try to snowball that lead for himself. And just kind of take over on those more assassin style picks. So we'll see if that can work here. Mid lane, there's Brewbender. Brewbender is traditionally a support player. So I'm kind of interested to see what they can pull out in mid lane. If they'll stick with those supports, stick with the Seraphine, the Lulu, the Lux, or if they'll maybe branch out into some more control mage style picks that are just a safer thing, like Ziggs or Malzahar or something like that. I think the support player that a support mid lane will go very well with an assassin style jungle, have a very strong 2v2 in the early game. Just keep that assassin alive and make sure that you take control of those fights. Bot lane, we have Boosted Sandwich, who is always playing a more scaling ADC, things like Jinx, Ezreal, Kai'Sa. He does have a pretty strong Lucian as well, so we'll see if he goes for a more aggressive Lucian pick or something more scaling and safe. And then Jerbear, 1912, he kind of can play a lot of things. He's known as a Thresh player, but he'll pull out things like Blitz or Rakan or Nami. He just kind of plays everything. So we'll kind of see what this team is able to do. Everything is pointing towards them playing for a solid mid game, trying to stay a little bit ahead of bot lane, not bot lane, stay a little bit ahead early game. They don't need to stop because then their mid game hits super hard with Fayman popping off on some of those champions top lane. So we'll see what happens with them.
The Fayman and Cookie combo that's scary as fuck.
I'm excited to see it.
That's
I can't
That's
wait to see who the
terrifying.
first person they smashes.
Yeah. I know from playing a little bit with Brewbender, I can definitely know she can definitely adapt to team situations. So I'm really excited to see how those three can work together.
I do also like Brew from the in-houses we had. She always had a very good attitude no matter the game state, so definitely a good person to have on your team for mental.
That's when I'm 10-0 in lane. It won't be that bad.
And yeah, definitely Jerbear likes that Thresh, and we'll see how much you think he'd look to end up being the general shot caller, but we'll see how that goes for their team. Now we're jumping into the Jotunheim division with Yordlin Yordles. And let me copy that. Now people can hear. You're good to go.
All right, so this is a team that I am very interested to see what's going to happen. So this is a team that has 3 different Akali mains who are all playing in different roles. So we'll see what's going to happen. Top lane, they'd have Omega the Reaper. Omega the Reaper.
So
This
you
is
from Boston
surprisingly.
now?
I know, right? This is surprisingly not one of the Akali players in top lane. Omega is a Riven main, also plays a lot of Darius and Jax. Very solid, kind of bruisery, juggernaut top lane player. I've seen Omega win against high platinum players before. I've seen him win against low diamonds. He's a very strong micro player, and all around seems to be a really good top laner. So we'll see if he can kind of hold it together against some of the top laners in this league. There's a lot of really strong top laners, and if he can find that lead in top lane. Jungle Goat BM. I honestly have not seen Goat BM play much at all. They're normally a mid lane player. This is one of those Akali mains. In jungle, from what I've seen, they tend to prefer things like Echo, Nocturne, Kha'Zix, again, assassins here. So we'll see what he'll be able to pull out, if he'll stick with those assassins or if he'll try to change into more team fight oriented junglers. Moving on to mid lane with Movie. He is a Katarina, Yone, Aurelia player. A lot of those solo queue style snowballing mid lane champions. We'll see if he can maintain that as well. A lot of players on this team seem to prefer those kind of solo queue style champions that if they get ahead, they just take over the game. We'll see if that can happen. Bot lane, we have Taishi Miwa and Doki for the win, or FTW. Taishi is another one of those Akali mains. Those are all 3 of the Akali mains there. When Taishi does play ADC, it's usually Lucian, Samira. They're normally a mid laner, so I'm kind of interested to see what will happen whenever they play ADC. And then Doki for support. Whenever I've seen them play support, it's always something like a Heimerdinger, a Scion, or a Seraphine. They usually take Smite on support. Or if they aren't taking Smite as support, then they are going some like heal exhaust or heal teleport. They never take flash. So we'll see what happens with this team. This team seems to be very much they got a snowball and then they can win off that. I'm we'll need to see what they actually decide to play in the actual league games and see what this team can put together.
It's easy. They just pick Kali 3 times and they're good to go.
Say, if we ever have an
Exactly.
Earth tournament or whatever that game mode.
Right.
One for all.
Yeah, one for all. There we go.
Yeah.
Definitely
do the
for
endless.
Reaper, that Riven, as you said, is exceedingly clean. So he gets all those combos off where you can never trade back, and that will most likely be a permaban against this team.
I can
Yeah.
definitely see that happening. I can seeing Omega's Riven is not something I want to see in the league.
Hang on,
So
we have a commercial apparently.
Yeah, commercials, unfortunately, there's not really a way around them. They will happen regardless.
Alright, we're back. Back from
Yeah.
commercial break. We're just saying we think Riven will be a permaban against this team since Riven mains like to not let you play the game in top lane.
Yeah, it'll probably need to be like a Riven, an Echo Ban, and then something from mid lane if they don't want to see the Katarina or Yone or Aurelia. All three of them are very strong, though.
For sure. But with
yeah.
them all being kind of mid-leaning, at least 3 of them, it will be interesting to see if they end up changing around their roles as the season goes on to mesh how the season's going for them. So it'll definitely be interesting to see what they do.
Yeah.
But with that, we're gonna move on to Night Raid Owls, captained by Kid Boo. And then, back it up. Ah,
Yeah, disconnecting.
true.
Oh, God.
Let me copy this. Now they can hear you on the scene.
Yeah, Night Raid Owls. This is the team with the notorious Kid Boo who disconnects. He's only done it once, but we will never forget. So this is a team I'm very excited to see this team play. They've been very active on trying to practice and get coaching and get better as a team. So this is a team I'm very excited for. Their top lane is Iban Bao. They are a Gnar main. They've been trying to expand their champion pool into things like Camille, Mordekaiser, Ornn. They're actively trying to improve, which I really love to see. It generally they play a lot more lane bullies and champions that will hit mid game super hard. They will kind of fall off a little bit later on in the game, but this team seems to really like to hit that mid game, so it fits really well with their team. Kid Boo 20 is the one in the jungle. He is a Shyvana one trick, but has been branching out into other champions, things like Lilia, Gwen, Wukong. Generally, a lot more farming and objective control focused junglers who will hit those mid game team fights incredibly hard. Weaker early game, though, so some of those more aggressive assassin based junglers can invade and have a field day with Kid Boo there. Pugs are cute in the mid lane. This is their highest salary player. He's been playing things like Silas, Akali, Yasuo, and destroyed a team that I was playing with as Cassante. He seems to play a lot of those very strong 1v1 laners, and also champions that are looking to roam to bot lane, roam to top, or try to invade the jungle, get those strong early 2v2 fights going. The bottom lane is Cursed Ember and Norbu. So Cursed Ember is very much a Samira player. Beyond that, he's been trying to practice the Vayne, then also getting like Jhin, Ashe. There's some other ADCs in there as well. Just kind of a safer, more scaling ADC player besides the Samira. If he can get the Samira, he'll pop off. And then, yeah, Norbu's playing those more engaged tanky supports, things like Nautilus and Amumu. Also has some other games on things like Janna or some of those other enchantresses. So a little bit more versatile, but seems to more so prefer those like melee tanks. This is a team that they have great communication. They are really working well together as a team. So I'm excited to see where they'll go. And then they seem to really want to get those strong mid lane roams down to bot lane or into the jungle. and then hit that strong mid game for getting the dragons, getting Baron, and forcing those team fights with their team.
As someone who made the mistake of giving Kirschtemper his Samira, that'll never be happening again. That is a very destructive pick for Kirschtemper.
Yeah, Fluffy, I understand your team was scrimming against Kid Boo's
Yeah.
team some, so can you give us any insight
Um,
on the kind of picks they were going for and what was scary?
Definitely, I definitely underestimated Pug Silas in mid lane, and then we gave him Samir Nautilus the game one, and it did not go well past that. Two pretty destructive games in favor of Kid Boo's team.
Definitely good to hear. I've gotten to subbing for them while Kid Boo was away, or more likely disconnected. And it definitely seemed like their mental is solid as well, since they're all. I think they already knew each other at least somewhat, so even if things are down, they don't really tilt too hard.
Yeah.
With that, I will get the Discord channel ready and move into Team H2O. And you're good to go.
Right. So Team H2O, they changed all their names to H2O,
Oh, hang
which
on.
I know that.
We
Oh,
might have
is
another
it
ad.
during an ad? Is there another ad going?
I think so.
Okay. Naturally, always an ad. Gotta love those ads.
Getting ad diffed.
Yep.
Let's see an ad.
Oh,
Alright, then. Let's just go.
all right.
They won't
Yeah.
miss too much at this point if there is an ad.
Yep. So Team H2O, they changed all their names, which I'm sure that Boo absolutely loves.
Oh, it's delightful. Thank you for mentioning it.
So in the top lane, they have Yanak Shama, I believe. They seem to play a lot more of Gangplank, Malphite, Yorick, some champions that are decently strong side laners, but they especially like to play for those team fights. Have some nice AoE fights while having some potential to split push on things like Yorick. So we'll see what he ends up deciding to play. It seems like it's not lane bullies for the most part, so it's more of a weak side top lane. In the jungle, we have H2O KB Jelly. So KB Jelly is very well known for the Poppy and the Maokai. He's also been expanding to things like Skarner and Amumu. All of those, basically all those tank utility junglers, the ones with heavy CC, that's what KB Jelly plays. He's generally a really solid jungle on those tank picks, so yeah, should be good to see. In the mid lane, we have H2O Akali, who, big surprise, plays Akali. Beyond that, a lot of scaling picks, things like Kale, Victor, Cassiopeia, Cassidon. Seems to also be just generally very versatile. He has some Zed games in there. We'll see what he decides to pull out. In the ADC role, we have H2O Poco. Poco seems to play a lot of scaling AD carries, things like Caitlyn, Zaya, Zeri, Sivir. They're all very safe AD carries, ones that can just be easily left alone, so that they can just AFK farm, which would then allow H2O Blitz to then roam. So Blitz Pyro, he likes to play a lot of that Rel, then also things like Nautilus, Leona, Taric, and then some Jaina in there as well. Very versatile, has a lot of different picks, and can either decide to play for lane and just win lane straight up, or roam and control the mid lane, control top lane, get that pressure going, while Poco can just sit down bot lane and farm. It's a very solid early game, very safe early game from this team. They're not looking to make those early fights. They just want to try to scale up. If they can get to the mid game while being even, then they have really solid team fights. They will item spec really hard at like 1 or 2 items, and can just kind of take over the game from there. So as long as they can get there, they should be incredible as a team.
Beard, I know you feel good that you're missing your Blitzkrieg Pyro support.
Yeah. Love it so much.
Are you sure? I don't think I'm too convinced with your tone there.
And I see in the chat I should ask you about the scream you guys had.
Oh, I don't want to talk about that shit. It was one
Why?
goddamn
'Cause you
game,
got
and then they
black?
all ran. No. It was one game, and then they ran. I don't want to hear that shit. I still got 2 more games to play.
That's toxic.
Yeah, in the last season where Beard, Insert, and I were in Press R, we had Blitz on our team, along with Shunpo coming up later, but definitely know Blitz on that rel is a terror, and will sacrifice his life to set up a good team fight so that there's a team win.
So damn good.
Alright, with that, we're gonna move into the Midgard division with Goats. And you're good to go.
All right. So for the Goats team, we have an interesting lineup here. So Hussism is the one who's playing top lane. He's known for playing a Kali and Echo, and then his Vigar is his fallback. So he has 2 very strong assassins, then a scaling AP pick as well. I haven't seen him play anything else that is traditionally top lane besides the Akali, though. So we'll see if he decides to branch out into some other champions, maybe pull out some tank or some more like bruisery style picks, or if he just sticks with those mages in top lane. Leon Lockhart in the jungle. He likes to play those really strong early game snowballing junglers. Things like Warwick, Trundle, Echo, Master Yi. He will, if need be, pull out the Rammus, but he would rather go with one of those other 4 picks. Just win the early game, find some picks, and just snowball the game from there. In the mid lane, we have the Crypt Lord. Crypt Lord is known for playing Vladimir. He is a complete Vladimir one trick. Beyond that, he has some Ari, he has a few other assassin-based champions, but I would love to see what Crypt Lord can do to build out his chant pool a little bit more and make it so a Vladimir ban isn't the end of the world. So we'll see what Crypt Lord can manage to pull out in mid lane and what he can practice up. His Vladimir, you will need to be banning it though. It needs to go. In the bot lane, we have Lethal Lime and Challenged Cat. So Lethal Lime is normally a support player. Interesting to see what he. Interesting to see him playing in the AD carry role. He tends to fall back onto Caitlyn and Jhin. Generally, very safe AD carries. So, once again, we'll see if he can pull out something or build out his champ pool a little bit more, so that he isn't stuck with a champion he's not too practiced on when those 2 get banned. The last one there is Challenged Cat, also known as Critter. Challenged Cat is known for the Blitzcrank and the Senna. Will also pull out things like Renata or Swain if need be. Generally more versatile and really likes to roam, which works well with Lethal Lime, who is playing a very safe AD carry. So this is a team where they need to win early and they need to win hard. Crypt Lord is, especially if he doesn't get that Vladimir, he's playing those assassins. They have the assassins top. They have snowballing junglers. They need to be winning a lot through either support roaming or through support roaming, getting those 2-man ganks, and or having Crypt Lord roam down to bot lane and getting some ganks down there as well. If they can't win early, they need to rely upon Lethal Lime to be scaling into the late game, and Crypt Lord if he decides to play more of a scaling pick in the mid lane.
It is my personal belief that Huss is the best player for his salary in the entire league. Seeing him play and seeing how destructive he can be on his picks, it'll be a really fun team to watch.
Yeah.
I think you're sleeping on their jungle there. Inzer, that's the greatest jungler in the league here. He's gonna carry. Y'all need to watch out.
Leon has always been a little gated by the picks that he goes for, just because they if they don't win early, they're screwed. So he has to snowball those early games.
I think it
But
will
if he
kind
can,
of help here for Leon, at least for his picks. A lot of times, a couple of them will get banned out on him, but you're gonna want to ban that Vladimir and probably the Akali anyways, so you might have a more open pick in that first 3.
Very true, very true. Yeah.
All right. Moving along, we're going to the Ramen Renegades.
Right. So
And you are good to go.
cool. So for the Ramen Renegades, we have Gasante Slug top, NBG Tactic jungle, Shunpo Shinigami mid, Covert Panda ADC, and Daddy Gandalf in the support role. So starting from top lane, Gasante Slug can play quite literally everything. He will play hard tanks like Asante or Scion. He'll pull out things like Kale, or he'll just AFK split push on the Nasus. Very versatile. He has strong, mostly tank style picks in the top lane. Tank or more like bruisery things like Camille and Jax are also very strong for him. He can play everything. He's one who's going to be scary just off of his sheer versatility. All of them are played at a decent level. I wouldn't say he's like insane at any individual champion though. Jungle NBG Tactic. He tends to play things more like Diana, Kane, Udyr, Zac, Mordekaiser, all those more like tankier junglers that hit mid game very hard. They want the 1 or 2 items, and then they just become monsters. All of his champions are also, they're not that strong at the early ganks, but they are very good at more jungle skirmishes. So he'll be looking for possibly some good 2v2s top lane, comboing with Casante's whatever he picks, and finding those fights there. Shunpo Shinigami, good old Jean's army right there.
Call him out.
Yeah, honestly, fucking sleeping in jeans. He always plays scaling picks. Things like the Victor, he is a Katarina player, hence the name Shunpo. And then also things like a Nivea, Vex. He especially likes that Victor in the Katarina, though, so those will be very good bans against him. He is very good at scaling. I've never seen him straight up like win a lane hard unless he's on Katarina. So he will more so farm it out and scale it up. If he gets to that late game, though, he's an absolute monster. Bot lane, there's Covert Panda and Daddy Gandalf. So Covert Panda, he plays a lot of Kaisa, a lot of Caitlyn, Misfortune, champions that really like to bully in lane, and then a few more like good team fight style AD carries. So this should be a decently strong AD carry for controlling laning phase. They're not like hyper aggressive like a Samira or Lucian, but should just be generally pretty strong down there. And it should match well with Daddy Gandalf's more tanky engage supports, things like Shen, Nautilus, Leona, and then Thresh. It's all the tanks coming out from Gandhi, and they should be a really strong controlling bot lane down there. In general, they should be a pretty strong scaling team. They want to hit that late game. They have Slug in top lane and Tactic in the jungle to control that early game. Hopefully, Covert Panda and Gandalf can also have that lane control bot. Just let Shunpo farm it out, scale it up, and then hit the mid and late game team fights really hard.
Yeah, I'd have to say I really hope they make it to finals and we also make it to finals because I have, it's two we have 2 wheels on my team. Me and Tartak down, they have 2 wheels and Slug and Shunpo. So we got to make it. Whoever wins gets to keep the name Will. That'll be the wager.
The Battle of the Wills.
Exactly.
Yes, again, from our last season, we had Shunpo on our team, and it was the classic. Every game, you could rely on Shunpo to scale up. Even if he was complaining the entire game that he didn't have any kills, we just have to say it's okay. You'll be strong later. Just keep farming.
Just
Hey,
keep farming. Just
Hit
keep
25
farming.
minutes and you'll be okay.
Yep.
But yeah, overall, this team I think is super solid, strong across the board. So definitely will be interested to see how this team does.
Yeah.
And we'll be moving into Team League of Legends.
Ah, yes, the most original team name that we have received.
It was such a
Absolutely.
good logo. I didn't know where to put their team names, but hey, we made it work. You're good to go.
Perfect. So for Team League of Legends, they have Grandma Nut top lane, Mont Blanc jungle, Kazuto mid, Mommy Senpai ADC, and then Trinity support. So starting from the top lane, Grandma Nut is known for just playing those more tank bully top laners, things like Maokai, Mundo, Garen, Nasus, just juggernaut side lane tanks. They're not going to be impacting team fights that hard, but they should control that laning phase. And then if he can either find those good roams or get a good split push going, he should be able to impact the game pretty well that way. Mont Blanc in the jungle really likes to play those more skirmishy or snowballing champions. A lot of similar champion names in here, things like Diana, Hecarim, and Udyr and Graves. A lot of players in this league seem to be playing those champions. There'll be a lot of overlap between jungle champion pools. So it'll be really interesting to see what happens with those champions, and if Mont Blanc can find some more champions and find just make sure that he gets something that he can play. Beyond that, yeah, it's just very strong early game skirmisher. Scales into mid game really hard with those team fight ultimates from Hecarim and Diana. And yeah, we'll see what happens there. Kazuto in the mid lane. Kazuto is a very strong Cassiopeia player. Ban it. Beyond that, he plays a lot more control mages, things like Anivia, Victor. He also has some Vex. Basically, he just copied Shunpo's champion pool. So
Do we know who came first?
that's a good question. It could go the other way around, but
I'm
yeah.
inclined to side with the guy who doesn't sleep in jeans like a serial killer. Just
Oh, you're
saying.
right. You're right.
That's tough.
But no, Kazuto is a very strong mid laner. Likes to play those more scaling control mages, hit those later game team fights, and just carry that way. And then bot lane, there is Mommy Senpai and Trinity. Mommy Senpai has been just consistently getting better and better as a player and as an AD carry. We've seen him for multiple seasons in a row in Press R, and he's been continuously just becoming better and better. So his Zeri is really strong. His Kaisa, Misfortune, Ezreal, they're all like more safe, solid team fighting AD carries. A lot of damage output coming from that. And then he'll have Trinity coming in support as well to help out. So Trinity likes to play the Nautilus and Leona especially, but she can also pull out things like Janna, Nami, Morgana. It's usually either a hard CC tank or the Enchantress is coming out there. So there is a very solid spread on this team of early game champions and then scaling coming from Kazuto. So early game, they'll be able to rely upon Mont Blanc, Graham, and Nut to kind of control that early game, and then scale into it with Mommy Senpai and Kazuto for the late game team fights. Yeah, this will be just generally a solid team, a very spread out team on where their strengths are. So we'll see if they can start winning through early game, or if they'll be relying upon Kazuto for that late game carry.
Agreed. I know this team, again, has a fair amount of flexibility if they choose to utilize that any throughout the season, where the top three, I believe, can kind of fill any of those three roles.
Yeah, you should have. They have 3 different carry options here, so it'll be nice to see who pulls it out each game.
All right.
All right.
And with that, we'll head on into the Helheim division with Los Nomadas with
Los
their team
Nomadas.
captain Snurpopsy. You're good to
Perfect.
go.
So, yeah, this one I am a little biased about because Snurpopsy is my brother. But we have a very strong lineup here. In the top lane, we have Modlock. Modlock has been playing a. Oh yeah, my bad. No, Nomadas. My bad. Anyway, so Modlock has been playing a lot of Kennen, Gangplank, Gnar, Darius. Very strong lane bullying top laners. They're also champions that will hit the team fights incredibly hard. Getting that Kennen ulti in there, getting the Gangplank barrels or the Gnar ulti. They're just such strong team fighting abilities. Modlock's been showing that he does very well in the top lane and has been taking over a lot of the norms games that I've seen them play. So we'll see if he can continue that into the actual season. Bulgaria. I always bulge.
Bulgaria.
Bulgaria. All right. Bulgaria in the jungle has a lot of the same champ pool as I was helping to coach him a little bit, so I am again a little bit biased towards this team. Bulgaria. He has he's mostly just CC tank jungles, things like Mordekaiser, Mumu, Udyr, Sejuani. He's been working on getting those good AP tanks in the jungle to just control the fights and hit those team fights incredibly hard. In the mid lane, we have Snerbopsy. He's been spamming games in the off season, especially on the Karma, trying to hit Diamond. But he's also been playing things like Ahri, Swain, Zillion. He'll pull out some crazy picks like Ivern in mid. He also likes the Soraka mid. So we'll see what he decides to pull out. I do
He
believe
got
that
that
he's.
Soraka mid from me.
You're right.
I trademarked that.
Yeah, no, he's been looking for playing through team fights, playing those more support mid laners, and getting his team to do better that way. He's never going to be the one to solo carry a game unless he like absolutely has to, but he shouldn't need to in this current lineup with Modlock in the top lane, and then also Duck Butter Toast in AD carry. Duck Butter Toast has been playing a lot of those scaling AD carries, things like the Ezreal, Callista, Senna, and Jinx. They hit the mid to late game incredibly hard, and they all have a decent amount of self peel. So he can take control of some of those team fights. He has a lot of damage to dish out, and he'll have both a support Enchantress player mid as well as another support Enchantress player as the support. So in support, they have Exo Symphon, who especially likes to play that Sona. Also plays a lot of Janna, Zyra, Seraphine, all those different enchantresses. Should make for a very safe game for Duck Butter Toast, and also a very strong team fight where they just don't die unless the team can break through all of the shields and all the healing coming out from both mid and support. So this should be a very strong team hitting. They should have a pretty good early game 2v2s with Bulge and Snarbopsy in the mid lane, as well as Modlock and Bulge in the top lane. We'll see if they can manage to survive the early game and then hit those team fights where they'll truly pop off. Yeah.
Sure, it's definitely been interesting every game I've seen with Snerbopsy playing those supports in the mid lane. It just makes the games very different from when you have the just AP casters or assassins in the mid lane. And I know you've been, or at least either you have been or you did do a little bit of coaching with Bulgaria for that jungle, so I know you've helped hone his jungling skills a little bit.
Yep.
I'm hoping for this team, whoever ends up being the main shot caller, if it's Snerbopsy or Modlock, they need to just point Bulgaria where he needs to go. He's fairly solid now on just the jungling, but sometimes it's good to point him in the right direction to go kill people.
Yeah, that is definitely something that they'll need to work on a bit, is that shot calling. Figure out who's doing that and who's making sure that they're staying cohesive as a team. That is something that they will need to be working on. So they may be a little uncoordinated for the first couple weeks until they can get that down. But
for sure, but we'll see how they do. And next
Exactly.
up, we have Team Big Wheel with Coach. Who was our coach? Hardway, the Hardway, yes. And you're good to go.
Cool. So yeah, Big Wheel. This is with Tak Ali top, Choopa, or More Sleep is what he was known as before in the jungle. The Hardway mid, Rise at Dusk ADC, and Timberland in support. So Tak Ali top, he's been especially known for playing Warwick jungle in the in-houses. He's also pulled that Warwick pick into top lane. He's recently been practicing a lot more of the Olaf and the Mordekaiser as well, some of those more strong, like Juggernaut style laners, We'll see if he expands that champion pool even more, because for the most part, he in the past has been more of a Zyra player. We'll see what he can do to expand that champion pool, and if he'll maintain being a threat in the top lane. Jungle, we have our resident, I believe, highest ranked player who was drafted, if not highest ranked player in the league, Cho'opa. Masters player, insane in the jungle. Right now has been playing a lot of Diana, Kindred, Graves, and Kayn. A lot of those more snowballing junglers, and it'll be really good to see if he can step up as the more main shot caller and carry some of these games. And especially if he can help with coaching the rest of his team to become better at the game. Maybe they could become a team that is very scary a little bit later on in the season. Let's see if he can step up into that more leadership role and bring up the team in that way. In the mid lane, we have the Hardway. This is King Beard's brother. Hardway has been playing a lot of things like Jace, Lissandra, Vex, Action, very strong lane bullies, and also laners who want to be roaming a lot. So the Lissandra, Vex, and Action, very strong at just shoving the wave, walking into enemy jungle or walking down into bot lane, and ganking as that mid laner. So we'll see if he can get that lane priority and be able to capitalize on that. In the bot lane, there's Rise at Dusk and Timberland. Rise at Dusk has been playing a lot more like safe, scaling AD carries, things like Ezreal and Kai'Sa. So we'll see how he does as that scaling AD carry. I've seen him pop off quite often. He doesn't have too deep of an ADC champ pool though, from what I've seen. Actually, let me double check on that real quick. I believe I've seen him play a decent amount. Yeah, he has more than just those two. But those are definitely his two fallback champions. So he has a decent champ pool size, very safe, very scaling AD carry, which matches decently well with the support in Timberland. So Timberland will play a mixture of mages and enchantresses in support, things like Brand, Sona, Soraka, and will occasionally pull out that Thresh as well. So it'll be interesting to see if they just go for some super safe scaling bot lane, try to hit the mid to late game team fights decently hard, while Tropa and Hardway kind of win the early game. Should also be interesting to see what Chopa can do with taking over in the jungle. He'll have a very strong roaming mid laner, so they can set up really, really good two-man invades or two-man ganks, both bot and top lane. So I will see what they can do in that regard. Yeah.
For sure. Definitely will be
Slept
interesting
in
to
my
see.
brother's Pantheon.
Oh, does he play Pantheon as well? I didn't see it.
His Pantheon's actually pretty nasty.
Okay. It fits the playstyle like perfectly as well. Really strong lane roaming mid laners.
Yeah,
With,
and the funny thing on him, he can be 0-6. He's still gonna fight you.
Never
I
Like,
first
respect it.
fight.
Every
He
time
does.
I
He will
respect
come
it.
at you from level 2 and on
Yeah.
if he's on Pantheon.
It's a really
mean,
cool
actually-
contrast between Beard's champ pool, like Seraphine, and then Hardway's champ pool, like Jace and Pantheon and stuff. I think it really shows the differences between brothers.
Yeah, one of them are just
Disrespecting the
willing to fight
man
you in
here.
lane. It will be interesting to see having that Masters jungler, how much of an impact they can have on the game. I do think right now, with how the game goes, you'd want your best person in the jungle, since they can just affect the map so well. So we'll definitely be interested to see how this goes.
It should also be very nice with Hardware playing the guaranteed CC champions like Pantheon or Lissandra to allow Tropa very easy ganks into mid lane and getting that snowball going. So yeah, should be good to see.
Alright, and last but not least, the last roster to go over is Team X with our own King Beardcles on it. And their captain DMX Habits. One sec. Alright, there you go.
Okay, cool. So in the top lane we have what was Envy the Reaper as well as McButter Your Muffin.
Your muffin. Yeah.
He's now changed his name again to DMX Reaper.
All name changes.
Yeah. He plays a lot of lane bullies and Juggernaut's top lane, things like Mordekaiser and Darius. He will pull out things like Gangplank and Shen as well. So he's just a solid laning champion top lane. He'll be pretty much strong side every game. In the jungle, we have DMX Havits. So Havits is he's just coming back to the game after a couple of years of being away. So we'll see how he can grow. He was a platinum player back in season 5, and then he's just now coming back. More recently, he's been playing some more of those tanky junglers, things like Zac, Amumu, Rammus, Maokai. But you have also seen him play things like Elise and Lee Sin. We'll see what he'll grow into and what he'll decide to play in the new season. DMX Excellence in the mid lane does really like the Akali and the Akali, the Ahri, the Vex. He will fall back on a scaling pick like Corki as well if need be, but he seems to play a lot more of those strong solo kill potential mid laners. And then also champions that can roam very easily. Corki has the package, Akali and Ahri and Vex, all of them can very easily roam to bot lane or top lane and find leads that way. In the bot lane, we have King Beard, DMX King Beard, and DMX Remianus. I already said the full name. DMX Remy. They both play ADC and support. So we'll see if they decide to stick with this lineup of Beard as ADC, Remy support. Switch it up. It can change each series or each game. King Beard, if he's playing AD carry, likes to play a lot more of those safer scaling AD carries, things like Jinx, Jhin, and Seraphine because he's a psychopath. And if he's playing support, then he will again also play Seraphine, but he'll also play things like Swain as well. He's generally very solid as support. I personally think he's better at AD carry, even if he says the opposite. Regardless, there's also DMX Remy, who as support plays things like Thresh and Braum, but then as an AD carry, he'll pull out Jhin and Ezreal, more like safer AD carries. So we'll see what they end up deciding to do. They have a lot of potential in that bot lane, a lot of flexibility. So yeah, should be interesting to see what happens. Overall, they seem to really want to scale into the mid game. They can definitely snowball early with those roaming assassin style picks from Excellence. And then from there, hit those mid game fights incredibly hard. I think late game might be a little bit more difficult since they don't have that scaling mid laner. They're relying on only Beard to carry those later game fights. So they want to be closing out those games in the mid game ideally. Yeah.
Yeah, this is another team where a lot of their players have a lot of flexibility. Now DMX Reaper used to be McButter and Envy the Reaper. Has played just about every role on teams in past seasons. Beard will swap between support and ADC, I'm sure. And yeah, definitely ban his Seraphine. He never wants to play it really.
You don't need to ban Seraph. It's okay.
You're
Just
a
let her-
liar. And
Just
nobody
let her
will believe
through. It'll be fine. I promise.
you. Mhm. No trust. None whatsoever.
I see Tack Alley's already ready to try to gank you from the top lane, Beard. So
Yeah, I just saw
prepare
that.
for all the love.
That's a little toxic. It's gonna do that teleport Warwick ult on my ass.
Yeah, that Warwick can run pretty quickly.
I was gonna say, or just run from top as
Yeah.
Warwick. One or the other.
Yeah, just need someone low enough. It only takes about 20 seconds then. But yeah, with that, we've gone over all the rosters. So now we're going to look at the matches to come in week 1, and then we'll do a kind of a deep dive into each matchup to close out this podcast. So here we can see all the matches to come in the Vanaheim Jotunheim matches. We got Air 404 versus Plague Gaming, the Bear Squad versus Team H2O, Night Raid Owls versus Yordle and Yordles. And then on Midgard versus the Helheim side, we've got the Ramen Renegades against the Goats, Team League of Legends against Team X, and Big Wheel against Los Nomadas. So here we'll dive into each matchup.
Right. So yeah, we have the. I'll just go top left over. So starting with a Play Gaming and Error. Oh, never.
Yeah,
Yeah, this is right.
I've
Okay.
got a screen for
Yeah, cool. So we have Play Gaming versus Error 404. This is a game where if Play Gaming, this is the a team that really wants to snowball that early game and build that lead. If they can find that and if they can scale into it, or if they can snowball into the game, they should be able to win out. Era 404 has more of a scaling lineup, so if they can survive that early game and stop that snowball, then Era 404 should be favored in the later parts of the game. Currently, I would say it's a bit more Play Gaming favored just because Era 404 has just swapped out their top laner for Flame over Mind's Desire. So we'll see if the couple extra weeks of practice on Play Gaming side lets them win out for this first game here.
How you feeling about that mid matchup, Fluffy? You're into flimsy
Uh,
fights.
I think this is definitely a place where I'll pick Corky or Victor. Not so confident about the Irelia pick into Flimsy. Not sure that's going to work out in my favor, especially with how we want to play so safe in the early game. I think I'll definitely be playing a pretty safe lane and encouraging Tartactile to do the same and just try to survive as long as possible, like Insert was saying.
Definitely makes sense. It'll be interesting to see. Kind of for this one, you'd think it'd be kind of a topside favor for your 404, and then mid the bot favor for Plague. So we'll see kind of how the chips fall in the lanes.
Definitely. There definitely is a massive salary difference in just the top lane itself. I think if we can rely on that to win, we might well stand a chance.
Yeah, it's gonna be a question of how hard can Flame win top versus if you can stay even in mid lane and what happens bot lane.
I definitely think Bird can lock down Arma pretty well. I definitely think she can do it. Because if we can just lock down Arma for long enough, I think we can take the match.
Kindly ask him to not do anything for a little bit. But yeah, I think this will be a good matchup, so it'll be exciting to see how it plays out. For our next matchup, we have the Bear Squad against Team H2O.
So this to me is a very hype matchup. Both of the teams like to play for the team fights. Both of them hit the mid game incredibly hard. Uh, it's all gonna be dependent upon if Feyman can find a lead and build a lead in top lane, as well as if Akali can find some kind of lead in mid lane over Brewbender. So we'll see if either of those can win out in their lanes. I think this bot lane on both teams is incredibly even. And jungle is very similar as well, incredibly even. We'll see what they can do here. I think that Cookie Meth may need to fall back into more of a team fighting style champion. I don't think he'll have much opportunity to get to the carries and assassinate them with something like a Shaco because of how safe and defensive the Team H2O squad is. So I don't know which one is going to win this out. It's just going to be a whoever can team fight better or find picks and whoever makes the most mistakes. Yeah.
Kind of game I can only hope for in casting, where I hope for a bloodbath and a lot of good games with back and forth gameplay.
Exactly.
Alright, and then our third matchup to go over. Got our Night Raid Owls against Yordle and Yordles.
Yeah. So this is a matchup where if Yordle and Yordles can find a lead on a hyperscaling champion like they seem to like to play on any one of their hyperscaling champions, they should be very scary in the mid to late game here. If they can't find that lead though, and if that solo queue playstyle just doesn't work out in this first set of games, then I think that Nightwave Owls can pretty much take over. I think that they're a very strong mid to late game team comp on Night Raid. So if Yordlin can't find a heavy lead and snowball it, I think they're going to be they're going to find a very tough game.
Definitely. This is also one where you've gotten to see a lot of what the Owls are going to bring to the table, and we haven't gotten to see as much of what we can expect from the Yordle Yordles. So I have to see how they've been practicing and what they can pull out.
Yeah.
All right, matchup number 4 for week 1 will be the Ramen Renegades against the Goats.
Right. So this is a matchup where the Goats they need to snowball that early game. They have to shut down Shunpo, or end the game before Shunpo can scale and start to impact the game. If they allow Shunpo to scale, if they allow Slug to find a lead in top lane, but they're going to find it very difficult to win that mid game and close out the game. So if it ever gets to late game, it should be Ramen Renegades favored. It'll be up to Goats to see what they can manage to pull off in the early game, though.
I agree with that. We'll have to see in the jungle. That matchup between Leon and Tactic, I think, will be interesting. They both are good at putting pressure on the map. I know from last season near the end, Slug would sometimes find a champ and just want to play it, no matter what the comps ended up kind of being. So we'll see how his picks go. I know a lot of them are very scary, but I know there were some times he would kind of pick into a counter just because he wanted to play a champ. So we'll see if anything like that happens also.
Yeah.
Week 1,
right.
Game 5 matchup will be Team League of Legends against Team X. Oh, I think.
Yeah, so this is a team matchup where there we go. Cool. So both teams are very evenly matched in the early to mid game. I do believe that Team X is a little bit more favored in the mid game team fights. When everybody's fighting on like 1 or 2 items. Once it starts to get to 3 or 4 items, though, I'm pretty sure that League of Legends will be a lot more favored with Kazuto in the mid lane. Especially since Team X seems to favor a little bit more early game picks in the mid lane and top lane there. So yeah, we'll see if Team X can build enough of a lead in the early mid game because they should be a little bit favored. But I think these are both very strong teams that should be pretty evenly matched. We'll see what comes out of the series here.
Kazuto said in the chat he'd trade the Casio for my Seraphine, so
It could be an
I don't know if I would
matchup.
take that trade.
I think I might have to.
His Casio is terrifying though.
It is, but
And he'll just run cleanse at that point, so your ulti doesn't do anything.
can't be terrifying if it's dead.
Beer just really wants that Seraphine though. He might have to
does.
let it go
Yeah.
for one game.
Yeah, he'll never get it anyway or otherwise. So
It's that interesting trade of mains.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely another game I think will be exciting to watch. And then our final matchup for week 1, we have Team Big Wheeled against Team Los Nomades.
Yeah, this is gonna be an interesting game. There's gonna be a couple of different parts that will decide who wins it. It will in top lane. I'm pretty sure that Modlock is favored over Tac Alley there. We'll see if Tac Alley can stem any of the bleeding in top lane, or if he can maybe even trade some kills with his more Juggernaut style picks. jungle, Chopa should be looking for a lot of invading and should be looking for controlling what Bulgaria can do in the game. A lot of what he can do with that, though, is dependent upon the mid lane, dependent upon Hardway following along with those roams and being there first. And that's where I think there might be a bit of a problem for them, because Snowbopsy should be able to keep the Hardway in lane pretty well, or punish Hardway if he decides to roam. Snowbopsy should be faster to anything in their jungle, and especially since he's playing more support style picks, he doesn't need the gold or experience in mid lane, so he can sack a wave or two in order to make sure that Bulgaria stays in the game. I think that bot lane's going to be incredibly evenly matched. I think that should be a just kind of farm it out style bot lane. So we'll see if Hardway and Chopa can get can find that lead, and if Chopa can maybe even find some kills on Snowbopsy mid lane, or if he can find that lead over Bulgaria. If he can't, I'm pretty sure this should be a win for Los Nomadas, but we'll see what happens there.
Yeah, it might come to the point where the top mid, well, really all the lanes will just have to be ready to respond to any invades and any harassment Bulgaria gets while jungling. Because if he does get invaded and killed and step behind, that's just a recipe for disaster as far as that jungle goes.
Exactly.
Yeah. Any final thoughts on this matchup or any of the matchups coming into week 1? This is our final game to go through, so just final thoughts from anyone.
I mean, if anything, I'm just excited to see some of these games start going. I want to see what teams can pull out, what they've practiced so far, what who's going to start winning, who has some things to fix on their team. We'll see what happens. We'll see. Yeah, I'm excited. It should be a fun time.
For sure, definitely excited to see
Same.
some good League of Legends gameplay. Week 1 matches will start the 11th and onward. So captains, make sure if you're not playing on the standard Sunday game time, both teams agree on a game time. And as far as production goes, we're gonna try our best to get all the games casted so that everyone can see some good gameplay from all the teams. And I want to thank everyone for watching our first episode of this podcast. It's been fun to put on, and we're hoping to keep it up weekly so we can talk about the games each week and look forward to matches coming up each week. So, thank you all for watching.